That's mooning us.
Why are you a drunk moon though? Look at you.
Yeah, no, I don't. It's probably because I got the glasses on and I can't like figure it out. Hang on, let me take off the glasses. See if it's somehow different. Can I make it wink? Oh my gosh, I can make it wink. Hey, Scott.
Mm-hmm. Hey man, you can moon me anytime.
I like how you like really emphasize that and you like turned your head. You're like,
Oh no, I was selling that hard. My goodness. I committed to that bit.
I am recording, by the way, so I recorded all that.
Please keep it.
I actually really quickly hit start
Man,
streaming because I was like, I gotta record this because I saw your face and I was like, no, stop streaming immediately. Go to recording.
Are you gonna stream this live again unintentionally? Cube's gonna be like, I'm there. I saw it all.
Meanwhile, I'm trying to figure out how I'm not in the dark.
I like that Scott's using his Bluetooth now.
What about your room light, dude? Is your room light on?
It was on and it didn't look that great. Okay, let's try to.
Do you have any standing lights you can like aim at yourself?
Well, you gotta close. You gotta close your window, like completely.
You have to close the window.
As soon as you gotta close it 100. I mean, if you look, I have a light on and I have both of my windows completely shut. And yeah, your backlight.
That light on.
That looks better. I can see your face and your beard.
Really dark. Yep, you can't see the definition of my beard though. Oh wait, that's a little better.
That's much better. Now I can see
that's much better. Yeah.
Hey, I might keep all this. I don't know. I'll watch it and see because I like these little technical things. And I like.
I wouldn't call me like.
Randomly
I wouldn't call me opening and closing my blinds like technical.
Yeah, it's technical for you, right?
I mean, it's old school technical. Like the old boomer thing, like, I can't see. What do? Do we dim the lights? Do we turn off the electronics? No, you open and close windows. That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
All right. Well, Scott, wait. Who introed us last week? That was Matt, right? He kind of took over. Scott, you
intro us? Me.
Did you intro? Well, you said it first.
When's the last time you introed, Mike?
Hey,
how about if you stop going and
Rochambeau for it.
Do your damn job, Mike.
No, I'm not here to do my job. I'm here to make you guys do my job.
All right, here you go. Because Mike doesn't feel like doing anything, welcome to Triple B, Buds Busting Balls. It is March 15th, 2023, and we're going to go and talk about some video game related stuff, which I do not know yet. Actually, I do. Wait.
You do.
You do.
I do know what it's going to be anyway, but I'm not going to tell you yet because I have to go and call, like, hooking you guys. I got to hook you into this. So here we go.
He's hooking.
All right.
I am a hooker.
The ultimate hooker.
Wonderful.
All right. Well, cool. Yeah. So we got kind of so we're only dealing with one topic today. We kind of discussed this beforehand, and this one's going to be kind of a beefy one. That's why it's only going to be one topic. And I feel like we all have those games that mean something to us in life. And that's the beauty of games. And really, in any entertainment, books, art, music. But today we're going to be talking about video games that have affected us in a very deep way. I'm not talking about like, wow, that was just a really good video game. I'm talking about like the real world kind of stuff, right? And I actually don't know Scott's video game. I know at least a couple of, or at least one of what Matt's going to talk about, and I have a couple myself. So, you know what, Scott, you did the intro, so Matt, why don't you start us off tonight?
Yeah, I'll go. So I have two that comes to mind, and I don't know if you guys want to do round robin just to keep a little variety in there. So like I'll do one, and then maybe circle through if you guys have multiple games.
Yeah, let's do that. That's a good idea.
So I'll start off with I have two, and both unfortunately are around like the hardest times that I've had in my life. And I'll go chronologically. The first one's definitely the saddest. So hey, buckle up. So about 10 years ago, unfortunately, my wife and I, we had a daughter, and she was only with us for about 8 days. And that was devastating, as I'm sure people know. And it got us in a lot of different which ways. It had this domino effect of many other relationships that were just forever changed because of it, which I won't go into details on that. But needless to say, it was rough to basically unexpectedly have child who was born very early, and then of course not. So that sucked, to say the least. One thing that really did help me was a certain video game in particular. And the only reason I was able to get this video game is my company at the time, you're allowed to enroll in child life insurance right when the child is born, which I work in HR, so I knew exactly how to do it. I did it immediately. And I got a very, very small life insurance payout, which sucked. So I'm like, well, I'm depressed. I'm sad. What do I do with this money? You know what I don't have? I don't have a Nintendo Wii U. I'm going to go buy one. So I did. I bought a Nintendo Wii U. The first game I got was Mario Kart 8, not the game I want to talk about. But I also got a game that really, really helped me through this really hard time. And it's a game that otherwise I would have been like, this is neat. This is fine. This is kind of fun. But this game completely enthralled me, distracted me. It wasn't too hard. It wasn't too easy. It had so much like variety and fun and short, sweet charm to it. And that game was Super Mario 3D World on the Wii U. And if you're not familiar with the game, it mixes the old school Mario game where you start on like a map and you kind of go through this path to play certain levels. And these levels can range anywhere between like 3, maybe 7 minutes, just depending on the level. But instead of a side-scrolling Mario game, it was a 3D Mario game. Think like Mario 64 and Mario Sunshine, except it wasn't the sort of expanse open world. It was a bunch of short and sweet 3D focused levels. There was so much variety. There were 4 different characters you could play as. You can do co-op if you wanted. Each level had like hidden stars, and if I recall correctly, like challenges or something that you can do within it. And if you just wanted to beat it, boom, easy. But anytime you beat it, you then want to go back again and again and again just to find all these hidden items, just to basically feel like you completed something. And as I've gotten older, I've been less and less of a completionist. I don't care about 100%ing video games. As long as I beat the core of the game, I'm pretty much done. This was a game where I'm like, I'm going to do literally everything. And there is so much variety, so much heart and charm in this game. It even spawned off that Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, which is, I think, a little underrated gem that a lot of people really like, that they just completely spun it off into its own game. But this game just enthralled me. I played this game so much, and it was just such a welcoming distraction for me at the time to have this fun, light thing that I could just pick up and play and just feel like I was accomplishing something when I felt like I had nothing else I could even accomplish in my life. And when I say I beat this game all the way, I beat it all the way. There were some secret levels at the end that were just freaking hard. They were just insanely challenging, but it wasn't that challenging where you want to throw your controller through a window. It was challenging that like, I'm going to do this. I could do this. And you die over and over and over and over. And I'm talking like, once you beat the game, it says, oh, hey, here's another world. Okay, guess what? Here's another world. Oh, by the way, here's another world. There was just so much content in this game that it just kept me going and going and going. And it was satisfying every single time. And what I liked about it is there's even like a noob mode where like it goes like, hey, bud, you kind of suck at this particular level. Do you want the super item that makes it easier for you? And I was like, no. And then one day I'm like, yes. And then I did it for one particular level that just kicked my butt. And then eventually I went back to 100% it myself because, I'm a gamer. But this game was just important to me because it kept me distracted. It was light. It was easy to pick up. It's what I think Mario games should be. And not saying Mario Odyssey was a bad game. It was a really fun game. But once I beat that game, I'm like, I'm done. I don't really care anymore to play it again. Where a game like that, I could just pick it up and play for 5 minutes. I can pick up and play for like 24 hours straight, which I think I did when I got it. So that game just meant so much to me that it came at the right time, at a time that I needed it. And it just gave me a great distraction. And it really, the whole point I really want to make out of this is there's so many games out there. There's so much variety, so many different experiences you can have based on what you're looking for. Most of us play most of our stuff online, just playing random shooters like Overwatch. But this was a reminder that games can be a very healthy escape, and they can reward you with small little neurons firing in your brain, those endorphins saying, hey, I got to do something. And while this is a game I would never say was game of the year, it's a game that even though it's on the Switch, I haven't bought it again because that was a moment in time where like that's what I needed, that's what I loved. And I think it's a game that if no one has played before, I think it's highly worth it to play it just the once because of just how much charm and love was in it. And I don't know if you ever played it, Scott, but I think you did, Mike, right?
Scott, you did, but you played it through me when I was in my Wii U missionary mode because the games were fantastic. The Wii U was not fantastic, but the games were just phenomenal. And we played 3D World, and I will say, Scott, you griped at first, like, eh.
Sounds like me.
And
Sounds
then
like
we
me.
played for about 30 minutes, and you didn't respond at all, which to me was a win. That means that you were like, damn it.
He didn't have any sass.
Damn it. I can't
That's how you know a game has Scott, if he can't sass it.
If I can't sass it, yep.
Yeah, like he historically growing up, and you've changed a lot since then, was like, if you're like, I'm not going to like it, you refuse to like it. You've opened up to be like, all right, I don't think I'll like it, but I'll give it a shot. A good recent case in point was Ted Lasso. We got you into that, and we're just like, yeah, that's right. Welcome. Which is back, by the way. Hey, I'll be watching.
I was telling my wife right before we came in here, I was like, guess what's on tonight? Yep. He's got a mustache.
It's Lasso time.
At the risk of getting too off topic, going back to like, I hate things, even though I never even played it. The most famous one in my mind is Guitar Hero. When the first one came out, everybody was playing Guitar Hero, and I hated it. Like, I'm sick of hearing about this game. The controller's dumb. I was the number one basher. And then literally it just took one weekend of me playing it at my friend's house. And yep, the rest is history. Bought all the games, bought Rock Band, probably spent $1,000 on DLC for Rock Band.
You did.
I did. This is not an exaggeration. So, yes.
You put so much money in the game. When you first played Guitar Hero, was that with us or a different group of friends? I don't remember.
No, that was over at the Rushing's house. And I think you owned it and you brought it over.
That's right. I brought it over because I somehow snagged this game. I know we're changing the subject, but I don't care because Guitar Hero was a delight. We were going home after some like event at a church, and my mom always got us Easter presents. And I was like, hey mom, for Easter this year, would you want to get me Guitar Hero? She goes, okay. Do you want to do it now? Because it wasn't Easter yet. So I'm like, yes. So we went that night to, I think, Best Buy, picked up Guitar Hero, and then I went to the Rushings that night and I broke it in with Tim because like Chris wasn't there or something. So I started playing this. I'm like, this is the best video game I've ever played in my life. It was so good. It was so special. And then there was this like competition between friends with it as well. Because like I think Tim was the first one to get like 5 stars on a song. I think it was I Love Rock and Roll, which to this day I hate that song now because of that game. But he's like, wait, Tim got 5 stars? No, I need to get 5 stars. But Guitar Hero was a delight. I guess back to the subject, I'll let you guys talk about the game a little bit, is I highly recommend this game just because it's fun, it's light, anyone can pick it up, and it had a good rewarding system of challenges. And just for me, it meant so much because it kept me distracted for something that was just awful.
Back to Mario,
and
by the way.
Yeah, back to Mario, by the way. And not all games can do that. Like if I was like super depressed and I played Overwatch, that wouldn't be an escape for me. I just get angry. I just get upset. I just dwell on it. But Mario, just like, I'm here, I'm focused, and this is just light, and I'm happy because colors are bright, and I'm happy. And it was the right game at the right time for me, and it will always have a special place in my heart. And I hope everyone that played it enjoyed it as well. Probably not as much as me, but
I'm willing to bet that like 95%, like 95% plus of people who actually played that game really enjoyed it. Like I like it kind of like to go along with what you said. Not every game has to be this heavy, thought-provoking thing. Sometimes a game just has to make you smile. And that's when Mario shines best. That's why Mario's gotten big, right? Like when you can play a level. I remember playing the Mario Kart level in 3D World. Yeah. And I heard the music, I was like, this is cool. And then like you run and it's like Mario. I'm like, I probably looked so stupid the whole time, just like, and then the end I was like, oh, it ended. No, in that game, that's all it does. That's all it was fan service 100% in like the best way.
Yeah.
And I do recommend, by the way, the Switch version. Okay, whatever. But too. Bowser's Fury, I really hope they do like the next Mario game in that vein because it's wonderful. And I thought I wasn't gonna like it as much as Odyssey. It's really good.
I think I will have to get it again. I think that'd be a fun stream game as well, just to kind of goof around on stream with it.
Not to make you spend money now. I think you can still catch it, but they just had Mario Day, March 10th, and it was like I want to say it was like half off. And Nintendo games don't ever go cheap, so
they don't. All right, it's getting added to my reminder list right now to look at it.
It may be done, but I think they do that like, oh, it's Mario, it's March 10th, but we're gonna let this go till the end of the month. Like, I don't know, but worth a shot.
Yeah, I might always pick it up used anyways. Nintendo has enough of my money over the course of the years. But the two things I just remembered about this game that really stuck with me is one, it became a meme because like one of the intro videos, like you go in these pipes, these clear pipes with your friends. And I think two of the characters have dresses on. So the way it looks like when you're like Mario, Luigi, or Toad, whoever you can play as, I forget. I think it's Mario, Luigi, Daisy, and Rosalina, maybe. And I think it was a fifth and a Toad. So like if you sit in Princess Peach first, she's flying and that dress is poofing, and you just have like Luigi and Mario. And for those watching YouTube, you can see their face like this, just staring like right up the dress there. And I was just like,
yeah,
I don't think they thought that one through.
They traveled through the pipe pretty darn close.
Yeah, so that was.
What's the rating? What's the rating of this podcast?
I think you already threw it out the window. With,
I mean, you're asking now.
I mean, let's just move
on.
Sorry,
he's asking for science. We have Scott's interest now. And the last thing.
Well, no.
He's gonna say something, and now I want to know what he's gonna say.
Now you know we're gonna have to do like an after dark, like Bustin balls.
You know it's bad.
Triple X.
If Scott
Triple B, Triple X, and then I'll share that joke.
Yeah, right, it's got to be bad if Scott actually second guesses himself.
When we make the Bustin Balls OnlyFans, where it's just such a misleading title, someone's going to show up and be like, this is not what I was expecting in the slightest.
You know what? The best joke is the joke not said, because it's provocative and it just makes you think of it yourself in your head. And then you just probably come up with a way dirtier joke than what mine even was. Mine was probably stupid.
You know what? I'll let you stew on that one. My closing thought with Mario, it gave the greatest power up to ever come to a Mario game. You ready? It's the bell that turns you into a cat.
Kitty cat.
You walk around as a cat, and they walk just like cats. Like it's unsettling to see Mario, Luigi, Peach just in a cat suit, trotting like cats on all fours. It's just like, this feels wrong, but I love it.
And I like the little touches at the end too. So like, when you get to the end of the level and if you have the cat suit on and it does that dee 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 wow, and at the end instead of the wahoo he goes meow, and I'm like,
yep,
oh, I love this is great.
I think there's
the question is, are they neutered?
I mean,
I don't see anything.
So I guess there is another question. Is everyone
they got Bob Barker?
Got Bob Barker.
Oof.
Oh boy.
Oh man, like Mario puts on the suit, Bob Barker kicks in the door. I've been waiting for this moment. It's time.
I've been waiting 50 years.
I finally got Mario.
The price is right, Mario.
And the cost is the moles.
What's your over under?
Man, oh, hang on. Barker's Bustin Balls. Is that what just happened right there?
Bob Barker's Bustin Balls. Oh my gosh, quadruple. You got us beat.
No, we got to change the name of the podcast again. Make a new logo and everything. It's Barker like smiling at Mario in a cat suit,
like winking,
like that moon from earlier.
Like your Matt Moon. Oh, that was great.
That was a great game for me. If you have anything to add about the game, go for it. Otherwise, I'd love to hear what you guys have for this topic.
Scott, you want to go next?
So I'm like the polar opposite of Matt right now. I had a couple different games I was going to suggest. One of them, I was going to do God of War Ragnarok. I feel like I probably talked about God of War Ragnarok on every single episode, though, for the sake of spicing it up. Not going to mention that one. But
it's deserved, though.
I mean, you talk about what you want to talk about, man. I mean, I have to fight. There are a couple games I have to fight not talking about every single time we record. Like, I don't know, Hades.
Metroid Prime? Oh, right, that.
Okay. Anyhow, I believe with God of War Ragnarok, though, is I do think it's a game that's very good for people going through a lot of different things, and I know a lot of, even you guys, you go through it and you've gotten different things from it just based off what you've been going through in your life. And for me, kind of the things that really stuck with me is just letting go of hatred, knowing that it's never too late to try to be a better person. And I think these are like some messages that, whatever part you are in life at, and no matter what you're going through in life, I think has messages that really applies. But going to actually spend a little bit of time on a game and less about the game and more about what the game means to me. And that's actually, and the ironic thing is I don't even know officially the title of the game is part of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Cowabunga collection. And yes, half the games on there are just called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So you just have to go and say what console they came out for to go and try to narrow it down. So in this one in particular, it would be for the NES. I believe it was the second one that came out on the NES. It is very weird in the fact where it has like a overworld. You walk around and it's like the streets of New York overworld, and then you can go into buildings and sewers, and then it changes the perspective to being like a side-scrolling perspective. I recently bought the game, I want to say in December, for a holiday, Black Friday or Christmas something sale, and I actually only played the game a half an hour. But the reason it's a very important game for me is, so I mentioned before in a previous episode that I actually got into gaming because of my grandma. My grandma never played a single video game in her entire life, which is the ironic thing. But she got a lot of game consoles for me and my cousin. She owned a NES, a SNES, Sega Saturn, Nintendo 64. And her main reason for buying those is she loved her grandchildren coming over and then spending time with each other playing video games. And she had a loft set up for us where we played these games at. And some of my most treasured memories of childhood were up in my grandma's loft playing these video games. And again, I don't want to go and apply my experience in life and kind of what I'm going through to everybody, but at least for me, there's been a very definite change in this phase of my life where when you're younger, you have all these people in your life, your aunts, your uncles, grandparents, they're part of your life, and, you think they're going to be part of your life forever. You fast forward 20 years later and you realize you have less members of your family with you than currently with you at that point. Unfortunately, that's the way of things. And, my grandma is unfortunately part of the group that is no longer with me. She did die about 10 years ago. It was, super, super difficult for me. And aside from my grandma, definitely in the past couple months, the members of my family no longer with me have been very heavy on my mind, something I thought a lot about. And then going back to that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, of all the various consoles she owned, 100 video games she owned, the one that always stuck in my mind was that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle game because of how poorly made it was and how difficult it was and how me and my cousins played it so much and we couldn't even get past like the second level on that game. And so I don't know, maybe it was just the frustration of that game that just burned it in my mind. And when I think of playing games at grandma's, I think of my cousins and me dying over and over at that game. So when I found out that it was part of the Cowabunga collection and, the super obscure game that came out like 30 years ago, that got me excited. And I wasn't expecting it to be a 5-star classic. I literally bought the collection just for that one game. And I didn't even plan on playing it for all that long, which that's what ended up happening, only for half an hour. But literally, like, the flood of emotion started that game and just seeing the overmap and just remembering, like, I was 5 years old when I first saw this. It's all coming back to me. I feel like I'm in my grandma's loft again. I feel like my cousins are sitting right next to me. And it was a very, very, like, deep emotional moment. And again, just in this period I am in my life, spending a lot of time on those in my family who are no longer with me, for a brief moment, I was reminded of times when they were with me. And, I don't want to get all foofy with everybody and talk about like, oh, well, if you always remember them and they're in your heart, they're never really that far from you. But as cheesy as that, it's close to that being an actual thing. I was there at that moment playing those games. So definitely me going through these difficult memories, feeling very sad, missing these people in my family. It was, so I only played for half an hour, but that's all I needed to do because that's all it took to bring those memories back. And yeah, a happier place. So that's mine.
Well,
at least number one.
And it's like, it just proves the point, like both of you have kind of proven the point that a game to have a major impact on your life doesn't mean it's a game that you play all the time, 100% constantly. It means that it had an impact on your life. And that's the thing with life. We don't all, we shouldn't all stay the same. I hope you're not staying the same, but we all move through life in different parts, so it doesn't affect you the same way, but it still does affect you because of that moment in time.
One thing that I can almost guarantee is you get up to heaven, your grandma's there, and you tell her, like, Grandma, they made this collection where they put all the Ninja Turtle games, and I played it and I thought of you. I can always guarantee, having never met your grandma, of course, that she would be like, that's awesome.
I had an impact.
And I think that's just really cool. And I think that's a good sort of tangent takeaway. And I do want to talk about the game a little bit itself, since, it's a gaming podcast. But this is just sort of maybe my former preaching mat coming out. But there are so many things that you might not realize make an impact on people that do. Like, something you might think is so minor is just the world to a lot of people. And really, if I had to say a lesson for me out of that, is like just genuinely be a nice person. Show a little bit of like empathy to anybody. And just one little example is like when I was doing the youth pastor days, there's a kid that showed up. His name was Andrew. I remembered his name, which is a big deal because I forget everyone's name now as I get older. But the next week, his mom came to me. It's like, hey, we decided to keep coming to this church because he remembered my son's name. I was like, what? I just remembered his name was Andrew. But just things like that can like mean a lot to a lot of people, even if it's just like having kids come over, like play video games. My parents did the same with a lot of people, where their house was an open door of several different people in different points of life living with them. And those are moments that stick with other people. So it's cool that your grandma was able to do that with like the Ninja Turtle game. But I want to talk about the game a little bit because I've never played a lot of the Ninja Turtle games, mainly because I thought they were too hard and not fun. What system do you have this collection on? Like, this is a new like release?
Yeah.
So I think it came out last year, right?
Came out November, I think, of last year. It's on PlayStation, Xbox, Switch. I think there's a PC version, so it's all over. I have it too.
Yeah,
how many games are on it?
Oh, all of the old ones. 2, 3, which is Turtles in Time. That weird fighting game that
I played that one on the Genesis.
Yeah, like I want to say there's like 5 games in there. There's
no, it's more than that. It's literally every Turtle game that came out on the Game Boy, the Game Boy Color, NES, SNES, and the Genesis. So honestly, like I said, I only spent a half hour playing a particular game. I did spend quite a bit of time playing Turtles in Time, and I never knew, but there's actually 2 versions of Turtles in Time.
And I think it includes both, right?
It does include both.
Yeah. Turtles in Time. So there is 2 versions of Turtles in Time, I found out. The kind of crappy one and the awesome one. And I totally played the crappy one first and didn't realize there was 2 versions. And I was just thinking, like, man, little kid Scott had really bad taste in games. This game kind of sucks. Beat the entire thing, and then I found out there was a second version that was the version I actually played when I was a kid. That is a lot better, and I was quite upset with myself, but it's fine. At least I got some practice in. But definitely I recommend the collection, though. Again, the game I talked about earlier that I only played for half an hour, I'm going to be 100% honest, it wasn't a very well-designed game. It isn't that fun. But there's definitely some fun games on that collection. I want to say it's $40 full price. I bought it on sale for $30, and I want to say it's something like 8 or 9 games on there. So I'm sure at least one of them, the odds are you'll find a great one in there, one you've played in your childhood. It brings back all those fuzzy nostalgic memories.
In the little bit I've seen of it too, they added a lot of cool, just extra stuff of like historical things in there and just cool like stuff that like you unlock and you're like, wow, this is actually cool unlockable stuff that like hits the nostalgia bone just right. So I agree with you there. And I think I know what game you're talking about. And I'm like, you were describing it, and I was like, yeah, I remember hating that game. I think it was Turtles 2.
And the funny thing is, me and my cousins couldn't get past the second level. And all these years, I just assumed because we're little kids and we were terrible at video games. I still couldn't get past the second level as a
Yes.
34-year-old man. And I've platinumed Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3. Like, there's been some pretty most of the Gears of Wars. I've did every single thing on there you can possibly do in this stupid NES game 30 years ago. Still can't get past level 2. So whether that's a good thing, it says a lot about, how well the game was made or how poorly the game is made. I'll leave that up to you. But there we go.
Well, it's funny that you mention, first of all, for listeners and viewers, you may have noticed that Scott's audio just like increased handsome Squidward levels there.
So
and
I pulled a Piccolo.
Favorite measurement.
Yes.
Pulled a Piccolo, took off my weighted Bluetooth clothes, and now I like full power.
Yeah, so we reprimanded Scott and told him to take out his Bluetooth headphone or microphone, and it's vastly superior. So that's what you hear there. Anyways, it's funny that you mention Mass Effect. So the first game I want to talk about that mattered to me was Mass Effect 1 and 2. And then, eventually 3, but 3 kind of came later. And Mass Effect 1 and 2 came at a time where it was twofold. And I actually talked about this in a past podcast, but I wanted to bring it up again just because it really does, it really did make an impact on my, like, these games, if they didn't exist, and if I didn't play them, I could be a completely different person with completely different interests, 100%, for better or for worse. Who knows? The whole everything, everywhere, all at once thing, right? Scott, watch that movie.
So
anyway,
good.
I do. I want to watch.
Yeah, watch it. Anybody listening and watching, watch it. It's good. Great. So in college, I guess I could say I really found myself. I know that sounds cliche. I hate that it sounds, that I have to say that. But so I went to junior college, and when I started college, I gained a lot of weight. A lot of weight. Because I was working 3 or 4 days a week, full days at work to make money. And then the days that I was not working, I think the only day I didn't work was Sunday. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I was either working or I was at school for junior college. And where I came from, I was out in the middle of nowhere because of reasons that my dad, just wanted to get away from everybody. And I had to drive an hour to school, an hour back. And so often I would just group as many classes as I could into like 2 days a week. And I would be there till late, like 8, 9. And then even one semester I was there till 10:15. And then I would drive home, and I wouldn't get home until 11:15, 11:30. And so, I would be hungry. I would be in these classes and I'd be hungry. And so what would I do? I'd stop by Burger King, baby. Stop by Burger King every night that I was there. And, just general living out on my own for the first time, really. Just eating like garbage. I didn't know how to cook. I know how to cook now, and I actually like cooking.
Onion rings. I miss those onion rings so bad.
Oh, those were so
good. Best onion rings in the fast food
because
business.
You'd have one and be like, "That's good," and then you're like already eating another when you say that. You're like, "That was good." Oh, another one.
I have never had a Burger King onion ring.
Oh, Scott, please do. Please do, and
really
report
good.
back to me. Describe it in great detail for those of us that can't eat gluten anymore. I need to know. I need to know how this onion ring goes.
Completely sidetracked conversation on this, but as far as like fast food fries, Burger King does have upper tier fries. So
I do remember them having. I remember when they switched to the new recipe, and I was like, "These are okay," and then I was like shoving them in my face. I was like, "Okay, these are great."
But now, time controversial Scott comment. In-N-Out fries. This is coming from a Californian, born and raised.
Animal style fries are good, but
Yeah.
you
Yes,
have to
but it
put
says a
stuff
lot.
on the fries to make them.
Exactly. If your fries have to be smothered in cheese and Thousand Island and grilled onions to be edible, that says a lot about the low quality of your fries, man.
Scott, don't go to Waffle House. You just described their entire business model in that instance right there.
You want to
Upper
sell
tier
it?
price, though,
Put some,
got your
put
Burger
some
King,
Thousand
got your
Island
Del
cheese.
Taco,
You know what?
Five Guys. Sorry.
We'll get back to Mike's Mass Effect, but my sister works for In-N-Out corporate, so she likes to make the joke we're an In-N-Out house, and I'm just like, we are a Five Guys house. Five Guys is vastly superior to In-N-Out, and if anyone disagrees with me, they are wrong.
Okay, that's
I
not
disagree
saying
100%.
too crazy.
Oh,
Well,
That's
okay,
not
wait. The
overboard.
fries, fine. The burgers,
I'm still giving it to Five Guys all the way.
We
Hey.
can still be friends. We'll agree to disagree.
Nice. Let's hear about Mass Effect with Mike and how apparently fat he got on Burger King onion rings.
I got
I'm not
super
gonna lie,
fat.
Mike. I'm getting really interested in like how it connects. You're kind of like building up. I'm like, and then Mass Effect inspired you to go and eat healthy or something.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So you'll see.
Shepherd.
So, and actually, years and years and years ago, I used to do stuff for different websites, like Zelda Universe. Shout out to them. Maybe I'll tag them when I post this. Be like, hey, I talked about you for like 10 seconds. They still follow me on Twitter, and they've got thousands of followers. So I'm like, yeah, I'm in there. And Gaming Rebellion, I actually wrote on this place called Gaming Rebellion a story called The Mass Effect, and it had to do with my fatness. So anyway, I gained a lot. So I'm 5'6", and I would say that I'm a little overweight now, but it's more I'm turning this more into actually saw my bicep there. I do have a bicep. That actually just startled me a little bit. I was like, I was just doing it just to be like, yeah, and then I saw this. I was like, hey, whoa.
He's feeling strong.
Gentlemen, that was your bear plug for tonight.
Yes, so that's right.
He muscles.
The
got
beach is that
way.
way. The gym is that way.
Whoa, Mike! You got permit for those guys?
Oh man, especially here in California.
I do love real quick that you named the article "The Mass Effect" about your mass, and the smile on Scott's face when you said that. He was like, as Scott used to write articles, so I saw the journalism just like that's a freaking brilliant title. That is amazing.
I was ahead of my time.
You are
ahead of my time.
It was beautiful.
Because you know what's? If you go and write that about somebody else, you're an asshole. If you write something like that about yourself, then you are
a genius.
You're awesome.
Genius.
Great.
Massively genius.
So anyway, back to that. So like I'm turning this into muscle. So my mass is actually turning into like not bad stuff. Okay, and I'm not anywhere near where I was. So I'm 5'6", and at that time I had gotten up to about 240, 250 pounds. So think about that. That's fat. That's bad. That's like starting to get like, okay, you're starting to get a little bit too much, right? And I remember my dad telling me this story that he just decided to, he was a person that would be like, when he made a decision, it was cold turkey. Like it was boom. He's the only person I've ever heard of this. He smoked. And he decided one day, I need to stop smoking. And he literally just quit. Not another cigarette from that day. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. So he told a story, kombucha, told the story that he knew that he needed to lose weight because he bent down to tie his shoelaces. And he went, and let out air. And he went, oh, I got to lose weight. And one day, I think I don't remember what I was doing. I was at school. I was in college. And I was really finding myself because I was in a brand new city. I didn't know either of you jerks yet. I knew nobody. I was in this new school with a bunch of people that were, I'm not going to go into that. That's a whole other topic. Not very fun. But I was trying to find myself and trying to fit in and trying to just figure out who I was, right? And I remember leaning down to tie my shoe one day, and I went, oh no.
That's the Burger King sigh.
Yes, that was the Burger King win. That was, I often think of Bender's woo from Futurama, right? No, he's dead. That was just the wind escaping his fat. So I got big. And in my brain, I don't really know what I attributed to, but I just thought, I can't play video games anymore. I got to go out. I got to do stuff. I got to be active. I got to be social. I got to talk to people. I got to do stuff. And so I went on this kick of I was always out with friends, making new friends, going bowling, going out to Norms at 11:30 at night easily and staying there, or Denny's or something, some terrible food, but it didn't matter. Going doing all these different things, and I just stopped playing video games. Like, I was done playing video games. And it wasn't like a I need to do this. It was just kind of naturally flowed into that. So, I started exercising a lot. And around this time, I'd gotten into a church, started to get connected, and that's about when I met you guys, or at least Matt. And I don't know if you guys remember this, but we set up a basketball, just a portable basketball hoop at in the parking lot. And at the end of the day, me and a bunch of people would go there, and I would play basketball for like 2 hours straight with these people. And I sucked. I wasn't good, but it didn't matter because I was moving. And then I started biking. I don't know if you remember this, Matt. I would bike up this giant freaking hill. I look back at it and I'm like, dude, that makes my body hurt. How did I do that?
I joined you, I think twice, maybe 3 times going up that hill. I know that hill on a borrowed bike. I wanted to die.
Yes.
I wanted to die riding a bike up that hill.
And I did it every day. And I just started doing it. I stopped eating. I completely cut fast food and soda. That was it. Everything else was fair game. I cut fast food and soda. None of that. And I went from about 240 to 250 pounds down to 190. Just like that. And then even then at one point in time, another story for another day, I got sick and I actually dropped down to about 180-ish. And so I lost a lot of weight. And I attributed that to, well, I'm not playing games. I'm being more social. I'm doing stuff. And I just, okay. And I stopped playing games for a very long time, which is crazy because games up until that point have been like my thing. Like, like kind of like Scott and his grandma, the NES and my mom. We played Mario together. We played Bubble Bobble together, if you remember that game. And to just drop that, it was a big deal. And then a mutual friend of all of ours, Christian, he's like, Mike, you like sci-fi, right? And I was like, love sci-fi, talking about films and books, whatever. Huh. You should play this game. I was like, I don't really play games. And I had a 360. I had gone through, gone through all this stuff. He's like, you should play this game. And I was like, okay, well, I don't have the money to buy it. It's okay. I'm finishing up Mass Effect 2. You could play it. You borrow it. And so he let me borrow it. And it took like almost a week. And then he asked me again, hey, have you started it? And I'm like, I'll start it tomorrow. I hadn't started it. I was trying to be stubborn. And then I started Mass Effect. And I couldn't stop. I could not stop. And it made me realize, so playing that game, I'm not even going to go into the details of the game itself. The characters are wonderful. The story's great. The sci-fi setting is just perfect. And, it's not the best looking game, I'd say. Like the character animations definitely show their age nowadays. But it had so much heart to it and so much life in everything. It was it's so engrossing. And what that game taught me was a little thing called moderation. And I realized that my issue with food and getting so big was moderation. When I moved out on my own and I did my own thing, I went, because my dad was so strict and just everything with that, I went like the complete opposite. So I started to go extra on everything. Extra on games, extra on food, extra on everything. And then I went the opposite way, and I started to cut things out that I enjoy, that make me happy, like video games. So I went the opposite way. not to say that being social is bad or good, that exercising is bad or good. I mean, you should probably exercise. Exercising's good for you, okay? Just put that out there. All the people listening and watching are like,
We came here to listen about games. Stop telling
not
us about
about
how fat
life
we are.
lessons.
Subscriber count cut in half by the
Yes,
next
just
episode.
gone.
We just fat shamed our audience away. Thank you, Mike.
Yes. But that game taught me moderation. And what's funny is that that's how I played the game with all my choices. I was never super, super good, but I was definitely not super bad either. I was just good enough. I was just good enough to be a paragon and instead of a renegade. And it really taught me that, like, I needed to reevaluate things in my life. And ever since then, I've never had a weight problem. I've gone up and down, became a dad and it was like, but then dropped down as they get older and making life choices. And doctor says, you need to cut things out, that kind of stuff. But it's really helped me to learn to balance family, gaming, work, other hobbies, all this stuff. So that game has impacted me and still continues to this day to impact me. So I may not be like Scott and just randomly decide, I don't like my character in the third game and just restart his whole entire playthrough of all 3 games again.
True story.
It's hardcore.
I am not that hardcore into those. But those games impacted me and continue to impact me to this day. And I mean, they will for the rest of my days.
That's really great. And I think the older we get, the more we actually do start to like the same games, which is weird, but we used to very much not. But even when we very much didn't, that was one of the franchises where all 3 of us were like, this is a phenomenal franchise and everybody should play it. I have a side story about Christian. I didn't know he was the one that gave you that game.
Yeah,
I thought it was him. What's funny, here's what's funny, is he owned those games, but he never owned a 360. I remember he was talking to me about it. And he goes, man, I'm going to buy these games. I was like, you don't have a 360? He goes, I'll get one. I was like, all right. So he just played on other people's assorted Xbox 360s. He never owned a 360. To the best of my knowledge, he just somehow owned the games. I'm like, how do you own these games and not have the system? I just thought that was
That's
so
genius.
Weird.
I mean, he didn't spend hundreds of dollars. He found $100 and got 2 games.
Away.
The funny thing is, everybody's talking about the future of gaming, how there's not going to be any consoles. It's going to just be Netflix, and you're just going to go on any device and play your games. Christian, he was a visionary. He saw that future. He was living it already.
He implemented it.
He did.
Yeah. He also implemented his butt in my face one night while I was sleeping. I remember
he implemented a lot of things. Yeah,
he did a lot of things. I remember, like, I was sleeping on the floor for whatever reason. I felt something on my face, and I look. They have my glasses on. I just see this large sphere, sort of this eclipse above me. I'm like, what is this void that's above me? And I'm in this like slumber. I'm not drunk,
You're
but just
waking
kind of
up.
like, I'm like, what's going on? And then the void spoke to me. Do you know what the void said? That's exactly what it said.
All right, guys.
It vibrated the house.
We're a classy, sophisticated podcast. We don't talk about parts in each other's faces and whatnot.
Too late. It's happened. Anywho, Mass Effect's phenomenal. I remember on your podcast you talked about previous one about Mass Effect kind of getting you back into gaming. I didn't know it actually helps you kind of take some life lessons out of it, like help with like, your weight, moderation, things like that.
It's helped me to keep that weight off. Like I lost it because I went the extreme opposite, but like now we don't, we'll have fast food. We'll do, I have drinks. Like it's moderation. And it made me realize that's why I got fat. That's why I made all these decisions in life. Oh my gosh. And it's all from a freaking video game. What a weird concept.
Can't say Mass Effect gave me any life lessons like Mike, but kind of what Matt was saying. That's a game that all 3 of us will just like, we cannot say enough good things about that game. That's like God of War Ragnarok level of like a game that we all love, and we could just go on and on and on about how amazing it is. And I'm actually currently playing through it right now. The joke Mike said about me not liking my character and just restarting from the beginning, I'm totally doing that currently right now. The new character, I'm currently in the middle of Mass Effect 2. No regrets at all. No regrets. But great thing about that game is I probably did a complete trilogy playthrough of it 13, 14 times at this point. I am intentionally playing it a different way than I've ever played it before. Like, I've never selected this dialogue option. Let me do that. I've never made that choice. And there's new things popping up in the game that over 10 years later, 13 playthroughs later, I'm still getting surprised and delightfully surprised at that. So if you are one of the sad people out there who has not played Mass Effect, do yourself a favor. Stomach Mass Effect 1. It's rough. It's rough, but it's worth it by the time
Legendary makes it fine. Legendary
Let's
Edition
say-
makes it fine.
They remastered it and put it all together in one collection on all modern consoles minus Switch, because I don't count that as a modern console. Got them. But it's on, PC, Xbox, PlayStation. Highly recommend. I think it's at most $40. At most.
It goes on sale all the time.
And you can get it on sale. That is a game that has the Buds Bustin' Balls official seal of approval. You should play the Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Phenomenal. That was a great story, Mike. I like that a lot. And my bedroom door just slowly creaks open, like the horror movie trope, like. And what I see is nothing. But I look down and there's my cat. Not just a cat that pushed it. He was like sprawled out like a cat. So he somehow sprawled out and then pushed the door open, kind of like he was posing, like, look at my belly, look at where my balls used to be.
Paint me like one of your French girls.
Exactly. And he he pawed it and just slowly the door open, and there's just my cat like, hello there.
I'm gonna be real honest. That sounds like something Scott or I would do to you.
I was about ready to say that.
So
I don't know why this reminded me of it, but when we used to crash at your place, Scott, there wasn't a whole lot of room, and no one wanted to sleep next to a certain smelly individual.
It was a terrible experience. Thank you guys for that.
So I used to legit sleep in his closet. It was one of those sliding closets.
I remember you talking about that.
I barely fit in that closet because I'm 6'4", but I found a way. And then when it got like too loud or smelly, I would just kind of close myself in the closet and just let Scott get hotboxed in his own room. Like, I'm in the closet, guys. Night.
I'm not sure if you were there that time, but the worst one was Tim, probably until 2 a.m. was just talking about like space physics. It's like,
oh my gosh, I do.
And it was the worst. And I feel like you were there because you just kind of like, you didn't say anything, but I could tell you were getting progressively more and more angry that this conversation kept going on. And you would like put stuff over your head. You would do anything you can.
I closed that closet door on him.
I couldn't go anywhere. I was stuck next to him. And I prayed for Death's sweet embrace to take me away from that and not have to listen to Tim talk about this anymore. One of the worst experiences ever. A little bit of exaggeration. It was not fun though. It was lower tier experience.
Oh, man. All right. Well, that's enough farts and fat stories.
There might be more farts and fat stories, but
I'll say Matt's second story yet.
Yeah, we got my second story. Don't worry. This will be my second and final one. So to paint a picture, this one was about about 2 years ago, a little less than 2 years ago. I was at a company for 8 years. I was a supervisor, had a decent amount of people that reported to me, and I accepted a promotion at that company. And then shortly after that, I was headhunted by another company that said, hey, come do this thing. We will pay you a lot of money. I'm like, I like money. So I went to that company, left my company of 8 years, started at this other company. And within my first day, I was like, oh no, I have made a huge mistake, a massive mistake. This is not the right fit for me. So I basically talked to them and said, I got to stop. I can't do this. So we came to agreement on, my leaving. And I'm like, you know what? It's a good job market. I have a lot of applicable skills in what I do. I'm going to find a job super quick. I did not find a job super quick. The job market was just so bad for me. It was definitely post like the worst of the pandemic, but still kind of in it a little bit. So that means most jobs were like remote and really like fully remote, not just region locked. So it's just a high competition pool. And I couldn't find a job. And thankfully I was lucky that I did pretty well with Dogecoin of all things. And that kept me going for 3 months. But I'm just like, I cannot find a job. And it was really, really getting to me. So I tried to get connected to my old company, a lot of other companies, and it just wasn't happening. And I was just super, super down on myself. I'm like, I can't find a job. Oh my gosh, how do I provide for my wife and pay my mortgage and all these things like that? This Dogecoin's only going to take me so far. So as I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do, I get a job at a movie theater just to have something to keep going, which by the way ended up being my favorite job I ever had. I even kept it when I didn't need it anymore. It was a fun gig.
One of my favorite jobs was True Value.
Yeah, like
So
just that basic customer service, it's a blast. And free movies was pretty cool. So I just could not find a job. And eventually it was before I actually landed a full-time like job. It took me about, I think 4 months from when I quit that job to really land, maybe 3 months to land something full-time. And sorry, I just had to clear my throat real quick. During that time, I had a lot of time. And I was just so down on myself. I was actually going to therapy at the time as well, just because like I was just like, man, am I useless? I can't get a job. I have colossally failed. I was on this great work trajectory and just crashed. So I had a lot of time on my hand and I played, and the movie theater was late night. So I had a lot of time on my hand during the day to play video games. And I've historically hated open world games, But I finally dove into a big backlog of games that I've had that I just never played. So I played and beat The Outer Worlds for the first time. I actually bought it new and just never played it because I got too intimidated because open world, really great game. And Scott, I actually think you would enjoy The Outer Worlds a lot. A lot of good Mass Effect vibes there. I played and beat Days Gone, which I think is a massively underrated PS4 exclusive. That's a very good game. I enjoyed that as well. But the game that meant the most to me during the second hardest time in my life was a game that I thought I would never play, but I did. Dragon Age Inquisition, which is made by BioWare, who there's a theme here, makes the Mass Effect games, things like that. This is a game that was very big. This is a game that its combat was very bad. It's like a mix of like Diablo and like freeform hack and slash, but just not good. Just not good. Graphically, the actual gameplay was not great at all. A lot of the world design, not great at all. They have some cool set pieces and places that you go. But what really, really brought me in, and I thought Mass Effect was just so amazing with all the conversations and choices that kind of spoily doesn't really have a whole lot of impact at the end of the game. But this is the first game where it felt like that I played that my decisions actually mattered and changed the way of the world. And when it came to the dialogue and the close-ups of the characters, it graphically was actually quite beautiful. But just the sheer amount of voice lines they had, the sheer amount of choice that I could make, I basically usually I make a character that's kind of like me, and then I just get bored and make one that's not like me. I'm like, I'm going to make a me character in this world. So I made a me character, made him try to look like me as much as possible, just a bit more Chad and, muscly, because that's what we do. And I'm basically like, if I was living in this world here, what decisions would I make in these situations? So it was my really first time like actually feeling I was role playing in a game, not just playing a game and doing whatever the character does. I was actually role playing the game. I was making decisions and seeing this story ebb and flow based on my decisions. That's where this game really shines because it impacted me without spoiling anything about it. There are so many story plots that I feel are so unique to me and my decisions. Like at the end of the game, there's a character that I essentially romanced that became their equivalent of the Pope. So a Pope.
Great.
I'm not going to give any more detail than that. It was a lady though. But she became like this Pope character, which meant like you can't be in a relationship. And just the way the game ended, all these choices and things that I made, the good, the bad, whatever, and then it finally ends over the sunset, watching the sunset after the post DLC, which came with my game, which is just phenomenal. And it just kind of summarizes the whole game for you. And like I put that down, I'm like, how many hours did I put into this game? Because the sunset of my story was tragic, but in a good way, because like the love of your character's life, you can't really be with them, but they're still there, but they're doing good work. It was just sort of this tried and true storytelling. But like I put the game down, I looked at how many hours I put in this game, and I put in over 200 hours into this game, which for me is a astronomical amount for one playthrough of any single video game because I did absolutely everything I could. I met every character. I talked to everyone. I went on all the DLC that came with my game, and I knew nothing about the world, nothing about the characters, nothing about anything. But just the story and be able to play this character that actually made like decisions that impacted the world, was competent and stuff like that. It just meant so much to me to actually role play that. And I don't like role playing games. I tried D&D, hated it, didn't care for it. If Mass Effect, like, yes, I'm kind of my own shepherd, but also I'm not. It was just the only time I actually enjoyed being a character. It was a time when I needed it because I was so down on myself. I'm like, I failed. I failed. I can't get a job. I can't support my family. But I can make this guy do it. And it was just a good distraction. That's the key for me, another distraction. It just meant so much for me that I could basically craft the world with my decisions. And I've always enjoyed the high fantasy. I really have. It's just a lot of fun. The music was great too. And it just meant so much to me to have that distraction to create my own story and have that slightly tragic but still impactful ending. And there was humor involved as well throughout, as a lot of these games do have. But it was just so satisfying. It's a game I will never play again. Never play again. That's one of those, like, I beat it. I'm done with it. This meant so much to me. It goes back into the digital shelf that I bought it on, and it just meant a lot. So I can't really recommend the game because there are a lot of things that just aren't that great, but the story and making that story was so phenomenal, impactful for me that it just meant so much. So I won't say guys buy it, but I will say that game, they did such a good job in letting you create your own story. Phenomenal game for me.
I do see the
Curiosity.
thread here with BioWare. Back when
Yeah.
BioWare had heart, that was
Yeah.
what made these games great. Is like there was a heart, whether they were technically good or bad. It was just like you connected with it in some way.
So, question: are you at all interested in Dreadwolf then, or is that just kind
The
of
new
like
one coming out,
yes?
in theory, coming out, yes, because of what I did in that game. If I can evenly remotely carry that story, I'm going to buy it. And if it's a brand new character and I can't continue the story, given there is some elements that are going to carry forward, it's a huge spoiler, but it was a great, great story element. I'm buying that game. It meant that much to me that even though historically I don't like those games, that game did so much for me that, yeah, I'm going to buy that game again. I'll be in a much different place, because now I actually have a job that I like. I have the money that I need to support my family and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, 100%. I'm going to buy that game whenever it drops.
And did you see the Netflix show? And if so, what were your thoughts on it?
Never saw the Netflix show. I thought about it because I think it came out when I was playing this game. I'm like, I'm going to play this game first. And then I legit forgot about it until you just brought it up. So,
Unless there's two of them, at least the one I'm thinking of, the animated one, came out a couple months ago, I want to say.
No, it came out longer than that. I think. It was on Netflix, right? It's on Netflix, right? Yeah, I think it came out longer than that. I don't know if it was that far back with Matt, but
might have been.
It wasn't just a couple months ago, I don't think.
But yeah, that game was phenomenal. And if anyone listening to this does like those role playing type elements, I'd say definitely from a game perspective, Mass Effect over Dragon Age without question. But this game definitely did a lot for me and helped me out quite a bit. Huge game for me.
It's cool to hear that, like, it's not that you find your identity in a game, but a game can help you focus to find like who you are, or just remind you, not to say that work is your identity, but like to remind you like this is who you are regardless of work or not work. Like you are you. Work is this external thing that you do as you. You know what I mean? And it's crazy how a role playing game can do that for you if you actually role play in it. And that's probably why people like D&D. I'm the same way as you. Like, I appreciate it and I understand why people are so into it. That's just not the way that I connect.
I think a lot of that also is it's my story versus collaborating with others. And I get why people like it, but I'm like, let me guide my story a little bit more. And retrospectively looking at it, I think it really did help me because I don't think I've ever, as an adult, ever been this mentally healthy and comfortable as I am now. Because the job I have now isn't not even close to the highest paying job that I've had, but it gives me everything I need. I enjoy it. And the fact that I'm not like worried about it all the time, I can actually put it aside and be like, what do I like? What my character did back there, those are the decisions that I would have made there. And while the focus of the game is the job itself, it is a good retrospective reminder that like we're not just here to work and die. There's more than just that job identity. We need to actually try to enjoy what little time we do have. Um, so I'm glad you brought that up because retrospectively, like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. That is how I felt playing that game. Is like you should try to be happy.
And you just kind of like also too just threw out another thing that I think why you connected so hard with that is it gave you like you got to take control.
That was it.
Like you lost control, you couldn't find a job, and I know that very well. I mean, you know, when I quit the one job and I couldn't find anything, and I was wanting to marry my wife now. I was wanting to propose to her, but I couldn't. I couldn't find a place to live. It was rough, and I know exactly how you feel with that. And getting that control back is like, whoo, that's a big thing.
Yeah. Sometimes we don't feel like winners in our life, and even though it's simulated winning, you know, sometimes that's all it needs to get you back on the streak or to get you in a more healthy place. So yeah, and like you guys, I've definitely had those moments where I'm like, nothing's going right. You know, all these things aren't my fault, out of my control, and it's just really bringing me down. But you know what? I can go and play this game online. I can go and kick people's asses. I can go and play a Mass Effect playthrough and save the galaxy. And yeah. And again, I think it's dangerous. Some people retreating into that. It's like, I can't, not successful at all in my life. I'm just going to go and try to be good at games and whatnot. I think that's dangerous, but at the same time, I don't think there's anything wrong with having that be your, you know, helping you it being your crutch to get you through those difficult periods, and yeah, helping you get back on that winning streak.
I like that. I'm glad you called out like it can't be like it can be an escape, but it can't become like your sole identity. It makes me think of that episodes I think of The Office where Dwight plays Second Life. And his like second life is his current life, but like slightly different kind of deal.
He can fly in that one.
He can fly in that one. So I think it's good, especially when you're down to have the escapes of video games. But I do like that point where it's just like, just make sure it's not like your everything. Make sure it's not like, this is who I am. My identity is this game. Like use it as a distraction, use it as a tool to even better you if you can. But I've known a few people that have been like, if it wasn't for XYZ game, I wouldn't like be going. And that just like slapped me in the face. I'm like, really? Like, it's probably not healthy, not the game itself, maybe a lot of other life factors, but yeah, you use games as a tool, as a fun experiment, but don't like don't let it be all consuming. Become who you are. There
Moderation,
you go.
baby.
That's the moderation. All right, so I think we're going to go continue the cycle of I'll go next and Mickles will go finish it up. Yep. So my next one, a little bit of a backstory about me. I'm sorry, you can go and fast forward roughly 20 minutes, get to Mike if you want. So just kind of like debating between Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and God of War. This one was also a bit of a debate, and basically between Gears of War 2 and Team Fortress 2. And for this one, I'm actually just going to talk about Team Fortress 2. To be honest, though, they could probably be interchangeable for the reason they were so important for me. But I think maybe TF2 was a bit more applicable. But as a little bit of a background to me, I was born and raised in Southern California, the Inland Empire area. That's where, you know, I hit my teenage years, started making my high school friends. And probably about the time, I want to say about 15, 16 years old, my family moved away from the Inland Empire to an area called Victorville, which is in the Californian high desert. So for any of you people that live in California and have gone to Vegas, you leave California, you drive through the desert for 4 hours, and there's all these piss-stained towns you drive by on the way to Vegas. Victorville is one of those piss stains. It was the nicer piss stain, but it was still a piss stain nonetheless. It was about 1 hour away from the Inland Empire, and coincidentally, about 1 hour away from civilization for the most part. And I am going to be 100% honest. That was one of the worst experiences of my life. I had a lot of resentment towards my parents, to be honest, at the time. Now I've kind of, come to terms with it, and I know that because basically their reasoning was, They bought a really shitty house. It was previously owned by a biker gang. Biker gang got evicted. The house went back to the bank. That was the only house my father can afford. He wanted to provide a house for his family. Bought it. Spent a good 10 years fixing it up and making it a nice house while the surrounding area slowly increased in value and became a really desirable area. Ended up selling it for a lot of money and buying a super nice house in Victorville. Even though it was a terrible, terrible area, we were in the rich person area of Victorville. So it was legitimately a move trying to go and better my family. But just for a person who's like really, starting to go mature, hitting that period of that life where, you're making these friendships, a lot of times long lasting ones, very, very tough for me. And to be honest, I actually really, really got into some deep depression at the time. And this may be a surprise to Matt. I actually was able to go, somewhat often to Matt's house here and there to hang out with him. This was around the time he lived back in the Inland Empire area. And the reason I was able to go to his house as often as I did is right down the street from him was a therapist office, which I regularly went to go and help with these, connected issues of isolation, feeling lonely, feeling, so separated from everybody I want to be around and the place I want to be at. And it was very, very tough for me emotionally and mentally. And that's where TF2 comes in. So TF2 is actually probably my first online game I've ever played. So I know all you Zoomers nowadays, and it's like, wait, there was a time when the internet wasn't a thing? Yes, I grew up during that period, as everybody else in this podcast has.
Dark times.
And maybe I was a little bit late to the online game party, but still probably not too late to it. And TF2 was one of my first online experiences. It was the Xbox version of it through the orange box. Yes, I know, the version without hats. So sad. And the reason I went with TF2, and for those of you who aren't cool and don't know what TF2 stands for, that's Team Fortress 2. Again, part of the orange box from Valve. And it is basically think Overwatch, but better. And this was just a game that just so happened that all my friends I no longer lived around in the Inland Empire, and a bunch of awesome new friends I met through them, like Mike. That was the game they all owned, and they played online. And they invited me to play online with them. And not just once a week, I would say a couple times a week, maybe every other day. We would go get online, all go on the same team. One great thing I loved about TF2 is I want to say you could go up to teams of 8 and do 16-player matches in there. And basically there was like roughly 9 of us who own TF2 and would get together and play. And usually, one person could make it that night. So most nights we had a full crew. Everybody was together. And it really meant the world to me. And I don't know if I ever said it to you guys back then. So I'm going to say it to you now. Thank you for all those times you played with me. You helped me through some very, very dark periods in my life. And all we did was just make dumb jokes and, spawn camp the other team and medic rush them. But that was a very, very important game to me at a very low point in my life. And I don't want to sound over dramatic, but I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't even been able to make it through that period if it wasn't for TF2. And kind of what I said at the beginning of this, it could be TF2. It could have been Gears of War 2 Horde, another game that I played with my friends through online and was able to go and get that interaction, continue our friendship, even though I wasn't able to be there in person that often. And even today, sometimes me in my old boomer ways, I hear about these people who like live online on Fortnite or meet their wife through some online game. They go get a relationship going and they move over and get married or what have you. And sometimes I want to judge them. I'm like, how can online be so big to you? How can you be friends with these people, make all these enduring friendships with people you've never met in, real life? And then I kind of go back to those TF2 days and it's like, okay, that's how it works. It doesn't matter if you're in a classroom next to each other or over a game. It's about a connection to somebody. And you don't have to go and a connection is connection. Where you can get it from, go for it. Whether that's in video games, at school, at your church, at your job. If you can go form a bond with somebody, even if it's as simple as, hey, we both like playing as medics and griefing the other team, go for it. And so, yeah. So I kind of want to just leave that rant with that is, if you ever go and play your games online and you form these bonds, stick to them. I mean, ideally, if you can go and pull off visiting these people in real life, cool. If not, that's fine. Don't ever go and consider those relationships a second tier relationship compared to the friends you know in real life, because those ones matter just as much, maybe even more.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned TF2 because some of the points you made, Mike, your recent podcast that just dropped, you talked some TF2 stories and reminisced on that. So I'm sure you got something to say. Let's go.
Well, so I originally, when we talked about this topic, I thought I'm going to bring up TF2, but then I looked at I was like, I already talk about the stories of that game, and you may want to listen. Scott doesn't really listen to my gaming dad cast.
I don't
podcast.
listen to anything, so it's not just you,
Yeah,
Mike.
that's fair.
Well,
I mean, he's
He
honest.
discriminates against all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I think even you would listen to that, Scott, and be like, "Oh, this is great." We talk about the medic rush. We talk about get your head in the game.
Get your head in the game.
And I had contemplated actually making that one of my games too, because that Gears of War 2, Gears of War 3, horde mode, for some people here, Left 4 Dead 2 was another big one. But it was like that Xbox 360 era of like, whoa, we can play online from a long distance. Well, we gotta do that. Like it just felt like the world opened. I think that was like when I first realized the world opened up to me. Like, oh, I can do these things still. That's cool. And I remember meeting you for the first time, and you were in Victorville, and it was like I knew you more. I'd like 80% of my time with you was spent online. And then later on that changed. For you moved down here for a bit, you were here for a while, we'd hang out, we'd do things. Anytime you come down here, you usually hang out. I mean, we're going to be hanging out here in just a few weeks. That's coming up quick, man.
Yeah. You guys have fun.
Wrestling. That's cool. That's good to hear. And I didn't know about the I didn't know about the therapy thing either. I knew that you hung out with Matt a lot. Like, I knew that you hung out at his house a lot. And, like, whenever I went over there, you were there, right? Like, I just assumed you'd be there. I didn't realize that.
Yes, because my mom hated driving down there. And it was, again, one of those things. It was difficult because I guess I could have had a car at that point. But the problem is 90% of the people who lived in Victorville at the time had to go and commute into the Inland Empire for work. And so it's one of those chicken and egg things of like, okay, well, I can't get a car without getting a job, but I can't get a job without getting a car and driving an hour to Inland Empire. So I was very dependent on hitching rides with my parents at the time. And so, yeah, it worked out really well. I mean, one, I wasn't just doing therapy just to be able to see Matt. Don't go and get a big head, Matt. So it was one of those things. It's like, all right, well, obviously my mom's going to be all for taking me to therapy down there in the Inland Empire. And just so happens Matt's right down the street. And in a weird way, it was actually part of the therapy of like, all right, talk to somebody who, by the way, don't go and subscribe to toxic masculinity. Don't think you're a big macho man and therapists are for wussies and sissy men only do it. If you're ever going through anything, hell, if you're not even going through anything, see a therapist. They're not going to go and give you some profound way to fix all the problems in your life. But you know what? There's somebody who's there to listen to your problems, and you can be super honest and frank talking to them. And sometimes that's just all you need. Sometimes that's all you need, and you don't even know you need something. Sorry, random rant on that.
No,
but
man.
Going back to with Matt, great talking to somebody I don't know, the therapist helping me through that stuff. And then, hey, as a little bonus, got to spend a little bit of time with one of my friends, which was, one of the things that was the core of my issues of, feeling so isolated. And so at least once for a couple hours, once a month, something around there, at least I got to go and have a guaranteed way to connect with one of my friends. So yeah, very, 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 very important for me at that time of my life.
Yes, I actually didn't know you're doing therapy at the time. So, I mean, I, on a personal note, appreciate you sharing that one. And one thing I've seen that the younger generation has really been into, and I feel so old saying that, is like they're very pro therapy. And I think the main holdouts are kind of our generation and above. Having done it personally myself, it's a very big deal. So seriously, and you can use your HSA money. You can even use some of your health insurance on it. So by the way, it's not all expensive. So there's just a little benefit to talk for you.
There's even free resources. Maybe it's not somebody you can talk to every month, but if for the short term, even in emergencies, there's plenty of free resources out there. So got no excuses. Money shouldn't be an issue. Health insurance shouldn't be an issue. There are people out there who will help you out. So for anybody out there who may be listening to this and struggling, if for no other reason, this podcast does not contribute to anything. If we go and stop it a couple weeks from now, it's a big flunk. If one person out there listening to this takes our advice, then I would consider this all worth it. And this is like, all right, this was time very well spent if one person has been helped listening to this.
Absolutely. I like that. And to I guess bring it back to game focus on TF2, we all have very fond memories of TF2. Such a great, phenomenal game. A lot of funny times. And one thing I've been wondering about is like, it's a game that's still going, and it's a game that I could play for free because I have a decent computer now. And I have some people who's like, Matt, you should play TF2 again. I stop and I think to myself, I'm like, I'm in the camp where I don't want to, because my memory of that game, and I'm sure it's still fun, but my memory of that game is like, I had my memories. It is locked in time there. I know they've added a billion new things since I last played it because we all played on console, which never got an update. Stupid Microsoft in that regards. I don't ever want to play it again just because I don't want to even remotely change those TF2 memories.
Also, you don't want to play because there's so many bots on.
That too. Quit. Plus, I can just play Overwatch.
TF2 now is like Terminator. The machines have taken over.
Yeah, it's bad, man. It's bad. Beautiful. Aim bots and it's horrible. So yeah, don't do that. I did do that and make a mistake. That's cool. TF2 is wonderful.
It really was. That was a staple of my childhood and young adulthood as well. Just playing that with everybody. I can't even imagine getting that many people together for a game these days. I can't even imagine it. Like, sure, like if like
that was
Mike
regular too. That was
regular.
Yeah.
And a lot of that's because a lot of us still live at home. I didn't move out till I basically got married. So I was 22, I think, 23 when I got married. So I was still living at home. So basically I went to school or work, whatever I was doing at that time, and just gamed. And, I would see my now wife, not as much as she would have liked because I hated driving so much, but we don't need to talk about my past dumb decisions in that regard. But we had a lot more time, I feel, a lot less responsibilities and obligations. And sure, Mike, you and I, we stream on Twitch and we play with a lot of people. Like we still do. And that's not to belittle the Twitch community, but there's just something special about like your core friends that you physically see. And I think that's a key point now. And I'm really concerned with a lot of like kids now, especially with the pandemic, where like their whole life's online.
They're doing it backwards. They're
doing it backwards.
Meeting people and then taking that online. They're meeting online and just staying online.
Which
right?
for like better or for worse, because having that just at all is a necessary thing for the development and health of a lot of people.
Oh, dude, my kid, James.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for him because of his friends. He talks to his friends on Messenger or whatever. So there's no calls, nothing, and we can monitor if we need to. But he just like will chat with them, and then they'll like jump on a game together, and they're just like yelling all these things, and I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but it just makes me happy because it reminds me of what we had in those college years. Of he sees these friends at school every day. He knows them. And then they go home, they do their stuff, and then they're like, hey, you want to play? Like, yeah. And then they're like yelling at each other and doing crazy, stupid stuff. And I'm like, I wish I had that as a kid,
I wish I had that now sometimes, but you know what? I'll stick with what I got. But I'm glad you shared that one, Scott. That's another game that universally the Bustin' Balls endorsed was TF2, at least back in the day. Maybe not now, but back in the day, gets that seal of approval. For sure. You got another one, Mike?
Yeah, last one, and I'll be kind of quick, but this is a pretty big heavy hitter. So I replaced my TF2 one with this one, and this is actually a game that I actually already by the time this episode airs, I will have talked about it. And spoiler alert for those who actually listen, this will be after the fact, but it's the next week's what's coming out, the last of the Gaming Dad cast at the moment.
R.I.P.
And R.I.P. for now. And this was a game that in the previous podcast episode, I only talk about its impact on me in one regard. This thing actually impacted me at 3 different parts of my life. That's how big this game impacted me. And it's funny that we started this episode with the Mario game, and we're going to end this episode with the Mario game. And that game is Super Mario World. I wouldn't even say that it is my favorite Mario game of all time now. I really love Odyssey. I really love 3D World a lot. But it impacted me at 3 different points of my life. So if there are kids around, I don't know why you'd be listening to this with kids around. Please don't listen to this podcast with kids around. But if so, cover their ears. But the very first time I was introduced to Super Mario World, and I'm not going to go too far into the story because I already talked about this previous in my podcast. And if you don't know it, go watch it, go listen to it. My parents, I don't know if they did it like on purpose or not, and I will never know. They've both passed away, so I will never know. They gave me one year, I found a Christmas present underneath a tree well before Christmas. And it said, to Michael from Santa. Weeks before Christmas. And me, just knowing this stuff, I was like, what the heck? What's up with this? And then I put 2 and 2 together that a certain jolly man didn't exist. And that was a big deal to me. Not because that he didn't exist, but because my parents lied to me. And I was a weird kid. I took that very much to. I was like depressed for like 2 weeks as a little kid, which is weird to think about. And all the way up to Christmas, I was super sad. And then Christmas came, and I opened up that present, and it was an SNES with Super Mario World and 2 controllers. And my mom went back there, and kind of my dad, but more my mom, helped me set it up, plugged it in, and all my cares went away. So that was one big hurdle, and it was that initial of, yeah, they did lie, but as time went on, I realized I get it, right? And that game actually helped me to get past that. If it hadn't have been that, I might have taken a different trajectory in my life and who I am to this day in my personality. That was impact number 1. Impact number 2. When I grew up a little bit more, my parents divorced. And if that wasn't worse, bad enough, I was old enough in the eyes of the state to choose. They didn't get to pick. The court said, no, that kid chooses who he stays with and who he visits. Like who he stays with permanently and who he goes on visits. So here I am, an 8-9-year-old kid, and I have to choose who to live with. And I would have chosen my mom, but something in me, I chose my dad. And looking back in family history, I'm not going to get into, providence, whatever you want to call it. So I lived with my dad. And when I'd go visit my mom, we'd play games like Bubble Bobble, but we would play Super Mario World together. And that helped me through that time. And it helped me to realize that them divorcing was not my fault. It wasn't really, it just happened, like I had nothing to do with it. And so it helped me to move past that and realize like there's more to life, right? This stupid little game about this fat little guy on a dinosaur. I got to share my time with my mom. Kind of like Scott, you got to share, your grandma didn't play games, but she got them because that was her a connection to you because she knew you liked it. And that was, my mom did the same thing. Like she liked video games, but she knew that I was like all about them. So that was impact number 2. Impact number 3, which was the big one. So when I was 12, as if this story couldn't get any more sad, when I was 12, my mom went into a coma. And she wasn't going to wake up. So she fell asleep one night. It was the night of her birthday, 40th birthday. And she fell asleep and didn't wake up. She had a blood clot in her brain. and the doctor said if you keep her on life support, maybe she wakes up, and if she does, she's going to be a vegetable. Like she's not going to function at all. She's not going to like, you have to feed her. She can't talk. She can't move. Like she's aware. That's it. And I was like, even as a kid, 12-year-old kid, I was like, oh, that sounds awful. No. And so there was me and then her kids with another man before she had gotten with my dad. There were the three of us. And so they gave that choice to the three of us. Two of us said, take her off. One of us said no. And so they ended up taking her off to see if she could survive on her own. She didn't. She passed away at the age of 40. I lost my mom. And in turn, lost the two siblings that I had grown up with that were her kids with another man. So they were half brother, half sister. That all went and exploded because of the decision. And I basically, all of my mom's side of my family, I didn't really talk to anymore. So here I was, a 12-year-old kid. Oh, and I failed to mention, after they divorced, my dad decided, I retired. I'm moving up to Humboldt, middle of nowhere, where you have no friends, you have no idea what you're doing, and shortly after, your mom is gone. So during that time, the one way that I felt like I could connect to my mom, and honestly, it was like a little therapy session for myself as a kid, was to play Super Mario World and find every secret, know how to get to like unlock everything, all the secret paths, like in that second world where you can go through and actually go through the lake in the middle. It's just, there's so many things that I know about that game to this day, and that game impacted me. And funny enough, it taught me perseverance in life, kind of like I talked about with Crash Bandicoot. This one even more so, because the three big events in my life as a kid that formed who I was. And often my wife has said, like, dude, I don't know how you turned out the way you did. Like, 2020 through 2022 was pretty rough going for me because of other reasons, but I like to think that I'm still a positive dude, and I always have been a positive dude. I'm realistic, but also I'm like, I will be your biggest advocate, even if I don't agree with it. You got me. If you have my loyalty, I am 100% behind you, and I believe that you can do it. And I really, truly believe that to this day, I think it's because of a stupid game called Super Mario World. It forced me to get better. I learned things. I remembered things, and it was a calm. It was soothing to me in a way that I could connect to my mom and to an age of where I was first introduced to games, and I did a lot of growing up through this game, unfortunately. So Super Mario World to this day, although it may not be my favorite Mario game to date, it will forever be the Mario game for me, like always. And nobody, I mean, you can make arguments against it, that's fine. But for me, it is the Mario game till the day I die. And it's just wonderful to play it and see my kids play it and experience that stuff.
How was it the first time seeing when your kiddos play that game?
The first time I saw it, so Ben has yet to play it because he's stubborn and just wants to play Minecraft all the time.
Sure.
So I'm working my way. He's getting a little older. He's getting a little better at games. We're introducing him to other things. But watching James, that was actually, I think, the first game that he started beating level. Like, he was like 3, and he beat a level in Super Mario World. And I remember, like, I got emotional. I was like watching him, and I have videos of it too, where he was like, "Oh," like making these like little kid sounds, and I'm like, all he was doing, he like jumped over a turtle. That's all he did. And I'm like, he thought it was like the biggest thing in the world. Like, the turtle's coming, and he's like, and he jumped over. Oh, and I was like, oh man, this is gonna get me. So I had to be like behind him, like taking the video for as a reminder.
Yeah.
But it was something special, like, and it's just, that's, and to speak to Mario, like, that's why they're making a movie about him. That's why Mario is still relevant after how many years? You know, like it's just there's something about it that's just it's soothing. It can help soothe bad things, really deep wounds. As
Yeah.
stupid as that sounds, you know.
I wonder if, as they're designing the game, if at one point someone thought about like this might be fun for someone that's dealing with something, or if they've just been like this might just be fun. Doesn't matter. That I think that definitely plays in what you're saying is to the longevity of the games is I think it is a lot of nostalgia built on nostalgia, but it's just such a good foundation and a good tried and true concept that makes sense. And like I mentioned to Scott earlier with his Ninja Turtles, if you're like us and you actually believe in heaven and things like that, like you get up there, there's your mom there, and your mom is like, "I saw you playing Mario with your kids. I
Yeah.
saw it." I
Yeah.
bet she would get a delight out of that, knowing her grandkids played that same game with you.
Well, and to know too, you know, for all her faults and all her flaws and all that stuff, everybody in my family always tells me she loved you. Regardless of her actions or the poor decisions she may have made, the good decision, whatever, she loved you and wanted the best for you. 100%. And I often have thought like, and I'm getting all teary now, that, you know, like she's sitting there looking, going, you made it. Good job. You got through those I saw those bad things and they sucked. And I am so sorry, but you got through it. And if it was a stupid game that did it and I helped with it, cool.
Yeah.
That's perfect, you know? And it's crazy the impact that a game can have on you. And I think the key to kind of sum up all of our stories, if you've noticed, the key with these games is it starts outside of them. There's something outside of, and we go to them for an escape, kind of like what we talked about with Scott. We go to them for that interaction, that soothing, that something, and then we get right back out, right, and take that with us. Instead of staying there. I think that's the healthy thing is you get in, you go, wow, this is awesome, and then take it out, and then your life gets more enriched, and then you find another game, and you could do that with another game, you know, or another
Yeah.
time in your life. So it's crazy. Games, man. Video games, am I right?
They're great.
And
Nick,
to kind of lighten, go ahead. I have something to kind of lighten up the mood a little bit that you guys are both going to groan. You guys are going to groan.
oh, I just like that even when I try to step away from games, it failed and I came back and they're still here. And I don't care what anyone says, it is art. It's also escape. It's also fun because you get to take control and it just has so much memory.
It's all of the above.
All the above.
All right, to end on a quote unquote lighter note, like this is like dark humor.
All
So
right.
when I first met these guys in our group,
Oh,
there was this phrase. Yeah, Matt already
Yep,
knows.
I
There was
got you.
this phrase that not only us, everybody did it. But our go-to was your mom. And so I remember one day I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna turn it. We'd do this thing like your mom's face, you know, whatever. Your face, your mom's face, whatever. I won. One day I changed it up. I don't remember who the first person. I feel bad for them.
It was me.
It was you. Okay,
It
well,
was- you did it to me at the very least.
It was done to him. I think the first that I witnessed was one of the Russian boys. But
yes,
go on.
I'm thinking of one of them specifically, and so somebody was like, "Your mom," and dead faced, I looked at them and I just went, "My mom's dead," and they just whoever it was. I remember the face, like the facial expression.
Yep.
It might have been you, Scott. Now that I'm thinking about it,
The
said
color
that,
draining.
and it was just like this.
You heard the silence.
And then they're like, I don't know if I should go or stay, say something, don't say something. And then finally, when I let them squirm a little bit, I was like, I'm just kidding, man. And like, oh, okay, your mom's dead. I was like, no, my mom died, but it's okay. And so I don't think any of my friends ever got comfortable with me doing that. And finally I stopped because I was like, okay, I gotta stop. But I thought that was the funniest thing in the world because I had moved on. I was okay with everything. I was okay with myself. Nobody else really knew that. And so it was wonderful using that with everybody. Oh boy, that was good times.
It caused me to stop, and I didn't even do it. I'm like, ooh. I think that was the moment where I'm like, I think we're done saying your mom jokes. Like when you made that, I'm like, you know what? We're good.
Yep. I
Moments
killed it.
passed.
Yeah, one of the rushings, it was Chris that
Had
I
to
said
be.
it to. And
Had to be.
Chris was like, you could say anything to him and it wouldn't phase him. He'd be like, okay. And I remember doing that to him and he'd be like, huh.
I think that's the one I saw, actually.
It might have been, but
it
was
floored me seeing him just like stop because he doesn't stop. It stopped.
Oh man, that was good. All right. Anyway, that was my random comment for the end there. I'm gonna go ahead and say that was my random comment. And also I Twitch. I Twitch. What's wrong with me? I stream on Twitch.
It could be a verb.
I Twitch,
this entire
sure.
time, buddy. Hate to break it to you.
Shh. I have a problem. I stream on Twitch. Typically try Mondays and Tuesdays unless, my kid gets a sudden rash that we think is chicken pox.
Nice.
Or asks to hang out with me. So Mondays, Tuesdays, check me out. You should do that. Matt, your turn.
Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, I stream on Twitch, celiac_Matt.
I hate to disappoint you who watched this entire episode just to see tonight's Sky Porta Potty rant, but I feel like, I can't speak for everybody in this, but I'm still pretty emotional talking about my stories and hearing about these fine gentlemen's stories. So I'm going to end it in a little bit milder of a Scott rant. And the rant being, call your parents. I don't care if you called them last week or yesterday or a year ago. Your parents love you. Definitely take the opportunity to talk to them if you have that opportunity. And your mom in particular, let's be honest, guys. Sometimes we only want to carry our own ass out of a seat and walk around. She carried your ass with her for 9 freaking months, all right? You can go and take 10 minutes to go and give her a call, all right? So there you go. Treat your parents well. That will be my subdued rant for this week.
All right.
I like it.
And I won't even do the lead-in song. I'm just,
it would be kind of funny though. Like you have this like hard rock, and then it's like call your mother, like just that.
Just play the hard rock song, but like at half speed. There you
go. Really slow vocals. Oh my gosh, it's like
put like black and white over your image as well.
Some rain, some over the rain. Yeah,
exactly.
Do like in loving memory of graphic at the very end of this.
In loving memory of Scotty Porta Potty's rant. All right, guys. Well, that was emotional. That's a lot, but I like that one. So until next time, appreciate you listeners, appreciate you viewers. Go talk to everybody about Bud's Bustin' Balls Gamecast, but mainly Bud's Bustin' Balls Gamecast. So appreciate you. You the best. And until next time, bye.
Bye.